Because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body. Okay, it's just a process that's used to make a whole lot of something out of something. That's what
also,
it is. But it's not. It doesn't tell you that you're sick, and it doesn't tell you that the thing you ended up with really was going to hurt you or anything like that.
On Monday, May 18th, 2020, the Maine Department of Health and Human Services Maine Health Alert Network issued a press release stating that the, quote, Maine CDC has expanded its capacity for COVID-19 testing. This expansion results largely from a partnership with IDEXX in Westbrook, Maine, to use the OptiSARS-CoV-2 RNA PCR test kit. The test kit is manufactured by Opti Medical and features an instruction manual that indicates the test goes out to a cycle threshold of 45. Opti Medical received U.S. FDA emergency use authorization to produce the test. What this means is the accuracy of the test hasn't been cleared or approved by the FDA. According to Opti Medical's website, quote, the FDA has not determined that the test is safe or effective for the detection of SARS-CoV-2. PCR tests do not look for the whole virus. Instead, they use chemicals to amplify levels of its RNA so it might be detected. This amplification, called a cycle, is a manufacturing process that successively doubles the amount of viral RNA with every new cycle. The test keeps cycling and amplifying the fragments until a point where they can be detected by the test instruments. The more virus in a sample, the less the test will need to cycle to show a positive result. The normal cycle threshold for someone who is actually sick with a viral load would be as low as 15 or 20. Most virologists agree that any test that has to cycle over 35 times should be considered negative for the purposes of classifying someone as sick or infectious. Maine is using a PCR test kit that cycles out to an excessively high cycle threshold of 45, which means many of the so-called positive COVID-19 cases in the state could be classified as negative.
So if we go on to the PCR step, and this is the cyclical duplication of DNA. What I've seen with the coronavirus testing is that they choose a cycle number. I've seen 36 and 37. I haven't seen it published very much.
What is now sort of evolving into a bit of a standard that if you get a cycle threshold of 35 or more, that the chances of it being replication competent are minuscule. So I think if somebody does come in with 37, 38, even 36, you got to say, it's just dead nucleotides, period.
Next question, the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
My question is to the Premier. Our COVID policies and the risk that they pose requires an honest and forthright discussion. Dr. Yeadon, a former chief scientist with the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, has stated, and I quote, most, if not all, of the PCR tests result in false positives due to high CT thresholds. Juliet Morrison, a virologist at the University of California, states, and I quote, any test with a cycle threshold above 35 is too sensitive. The Public Health Agency of Canada reported in May of this year that testing over 25 cycles provides dubious results. The prestigious Oxford professor Dr. Carl Hannigan has stated a PCR test does not equal COVID-19. Speaker, my question to the Premier is your testing creating both a false understanding of the risk as well as false positives?
Thank you, Speaker. The PCR testing is very effective in areas where there are outbreaks.
What the hell did you just say?
The PCR testing is very effective in areas where there are outbreaks. It has proven to be so. We are receiving that information. We need that information in order to take action. We have taken action on several fronts in terms of limiting unmonitored social gatherings, limiting capacities in restaurants and bars, and in other actions that we've taken. But I'm not quite sure what the member is suggesting. Are you suggesting we don't do any testing? We just stop testing? Is that the reaction that we should be taking with this? What else would you suggest?
Back to the Premier, and I'm glad that question was posed. On July 30th, the Deputy Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Barbara Yaffe, stated, and I quote, "Our testing can result in over 50% false positives. That is, the person actually doesn't have COVID. They have something else, or they may have nothing." She has also called for limits on testing of asymptomatic people, while the government calls for more. Another contradiction in a long list of COVID contradictions. We know high false positive rates are due to high CTs, and Canadian and world experts agree it should not be more than 25 cycles. Yet, according to the Journal of Virology, Ontario labs are testing samples at 38 to 45 cycles. That's what needs to be done. Speaker, to the Premier, when did the Premier become aware of these faulty tests and practices, and why have you done nothing to fix them since at least July?
I would say to the member, there are zero inconsistencies coming from our public health experts.
25.
Dr. Yaffe has clarified what she indicated before. What she indicated before was that the
25.
PCR testing is very effective in areas where we are having outbreaks, such as what we're seeing in various parts of the province right now, in Peel, in Ottawa, and in Toronto. We need that testing to make those decisions.